Hello, welcome. Lawyers of Reddit, what was your hold it moment where you knew you would win? My client was riding his motorcycle on a relatively calm street when this guy exited his garage, without looking, and run over him. In deposition, the guy brought a witness that was with him on the passenger seat. The whole time, the witness maintained that my client was driving too fast and that there was no time to brake the car. I asked him the same question a few times in different ways, making him tell the story again. In the fourth telling, he, already a bit frustrated, let it slip. Look, I've already told you. We were exiting the garage and, as soon as I lifted up from getting my cell phone on the car's carpet, wait. So you didn't even see the crash? There was no coming back from that. It was my third month of practice. I was in family law at the time, representing mom in a petition for a restraining order against boyfriend, dad. At issue in the broader case was child visitation, custody, support etc., but today's hearing was just on the RO. We had pretty good facts, but it was mostly based on testimony of the parties. My client was way more reputable as a witness, so I was feeling confident. 10 minutes before the hearing, my client shows up. I give her a last-minute prep on what to expect and then she says, "I'm glad I'm going through with this. I can't deal with it anymore and he's just getting worse." To top it off, he left me a drunken, ranting voicemail on Saturday. "You have your phone with you?" "Yes." We play the voicemail and it's a full 2 minutes of ex-boyfriend screaming shit like, "I should have ducking killed you when we were together. You were always such a bitch. I hope you burned to death in a fire." I didn't have time to ask her why the duck. She hadn't said anything to me about the voicemail before the bailiff called our case. We sit, the judge asks if either side has additional evidence, and I ask for permission to play the voicemail. Ex-boyfriend, who didn't have an attorney, didn't object, so I played the whole nasty 2-minute rant in open court. Judge goes, "We're going to take a brief recess before I issue my ruling. If the parties want to meet and confer in the hall, they are welcome to." Boyfriend knew he was ducked. We settled the whole damn case then and there. My client got her wish list in terms of custody, supervised visitation, child support, plus the restraining order, to boot. In court for a restraining order, my ex was adamant he had not nearly killed our daughter and that he did not in fact break into my house and point a gun at me the week prior. I was just a liar who wanted to keep his child away. When told I was asking for a full indefinite order, which is zero contact ever, he said to his lawyer, "If this bitch gets that order, I'm going back to her house and I won't fail this time." Sadly for him, his microphone was still on. We had some huge issues with a landlord trying to enter without letting us know beforehand, not answering to fix issues, very aggressive when talking with us when he decided to sell the place. He didn't check with us about the visits and just showed up randomly with potential buyers. We told him to get lost. He eventually left but called us the same evening to threaten us. We sent emails to remind him of our rights as tenants and he answered by threatening us some more, in an email. We eventually end up in small issues court, not from the US, don't know the name, and he fabricates a story about how we are terrible tenants and we try to discourage buyers. We just showed the judge the emails as well as the open complaint to the police we filled a few days earlier. The judge couldn't believe it and gave him a formal warning, gave us 3 free months of rent. In the end the guy just used a real estate company to sell the place, all went smoothly and we still live there with lovely landlords that aren't completely bonkers. At a restraining order trial it was essentially my client's word versus his, regarding a sexual assault. He did a good job dressing up and acting very appropriate during most of his testimony. But then he was asked a series of open-ended questions and he said something to the effect that, "She kept coming up on me with that fucking pussy," allegedly during a lecture, and as soon as he said it a look came on his face and the judge's face and everyone knew the ruse of respectable young gentlemen had failed. I won. I worked on a case involving defective processors. In discovery we got emails from the defendant's engineers that had worked on the processors. They were in an Asian country but the emails were in English because they were going to US executives. One of the more senior engineers basically laid out the exact defect we were suing over, explaining what the problem was and why it was their fault, and finishing with, "This is big problem, we ship crap to customer." Needless to say we hit them over the head with that in mediation, and they settled shortly after. I've caught this before. I wrote up a settlement recommendation because we had a sloppy record. Client came back with a much better record in response. No explanation of why they didn't provide it in the first place. So we called them. Turned out they used our settlement recommendation as a guide to improve their work. after the lawsuit was actually filed. It definitely wasn't an intentional attempt to commit fraud or perjury, but for my sake and theirs, I'm glad I caught that. The other poster explained it well. I'm not in employment law, but it's easier to explain with that. Imagine you're a manager, and you illegally fire an employee for organizing a union. You write a termination memo stating just that, and then the employee sues you. Your lawyer tells you that you broke the law, and there are documents written by you proving it. You respond by deleting the old text and replacing it with a bunch of performance issues, and give them to the lawyer as the actual official reason, backdated before the lawsuit. Courts care a lot about when statements and documents are made. An email or memo written well before litigation was expected is going to be more convincing than a statement of facts responding to litigation, because there's now more of a motivation to slant the facts in your direction. Very abbreviated, I was prosecuting a convenience store owner for luring a young girl, who regularly came into the store, back to a part of the store to grope, fondle and kiss her, child enticement. It was the only section of the store without surveillance camera coverage. They were in the back room for about 2 minutes and 17 seconds, per the timestamp on the videos. Of the many arguments the defense put on, one was there was no way there was enough time for anything to happen. In my rebuttal on closing, I asked the jury to imagine what could happen in the room in that amount of time, and I asked them to all close their eyes while I timed out 2 minutes and 17 seconds on my watch, in silence. After about 60 seconds, 2 of the jurors started crying. Knew it was going to be guilty right then. I can't believe I'm about to use the not a lawyer but loan, but here goes. Lol, tried to sell my home myself and the buyers wanted a term period for land contract before getting their own mortgage. I agreed to 1 year, had a simple contract drawn up, and after we both signed it everything seemed fine. Within 30 days the present me with their own legally drawn up land contract that was pages long to protect their investment. About page 3 it very clearly stated that, if for any reason the home burns down, purchaser will receive all insurance proceeds. First, I still had a mortgage and the proceeds would legally go to pay that off. Second, that's a pretty targeted thing to say. Not lawyers' terms of the house being destroyed, and it's surrounded by woods and waterways, just if it burnt down. Page 4 stated that this would remain a land contract until my mortgage was paid in full, so they'd never buy outright. I returned it to them with a letter stating those two things were never happening and I wasn't signing. They stopped paying, so I began eviction. 6 months later the lawyer I hired was an idiot and I'm sitting down with their lawyer myself. He brings out the contract they'd tried giving me and began talking about their ironclad case due to the agreement. I asked him to show me my signature, the look on his face when he realized it wasn't there. After we talked it turned out he knew them and wrote the contract without the burn the house down stipulation, seems they added it, and under the belief it was a long-term land contract. Not only did I win, I'm pretty sure they lost a lawyer friend. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you would like to see more, feel free to subscribe.